All right, everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing Endsinger, Book 3 of the Stormdancer series by Jay Kristoff. This is the conclusion of the Stormdancer trilogy, and it's focused around all these large scale battles and events that happen that have kind of been set up through the first couple books. Honestly, it's almost like just a giant conclusion for the first two books. So, um, should be noted that uh, since this is the end of the trilogy, and I've already talked about the first two books, which you can find on my channel, um, I'm gonna be going into a lot of spoilers in this one. So, because I just don't think there's any other way to discuss it besides going into spoilers. So we're gonna start off with that. So if you don't want it spoiled, go read it first, then come back. Okay. All right. So I think one of the biggest positives for me is Keen and Yoshi have a lot of great moments in this book. I think the setup with Keen being like his vision and his prophecy, I think is one of, and like how it ends up playing out and how he uses that is great. I think the dialogue in that scene is really cool. I actually felt quite an emotional attachment to that scene. Um, I really think that Yoshi, in the city, getting his vengeance and stuff like that, and the consequences of that, and like what it does for him, and like this Rat King image of him is really cool. And it's interesting for him to have that moment where he realizes that he gets his revenge, and it's just like he kind of realizes that he doesn't have anything to live for, that he's kind of just empty and hollow. And I thought it was actually a really good emotional moment. Okay, with that being said, we're going to go into a lot of criticisms in this. So the battle at the end with all the demons is pretty meh for me. Um, I think that like the Oni were like set up through the earlier books, but they were kind of like never really developed. They were just like there and they weren't really explained. But holes being ripped in the earth and letting demons out kind of blew away my suspension of disbelief. I was just like, okay, there was no setup for this whatsoever. Like, if we had gotten some, like, exploration into how they were coming to the world other than just being there prior to this book, maybe it could have worked out. But honestly, I just don't think there was enough setup. And I think the conflict was very much like, oh, we have these two character, or we have like these two sides, and we have characters kind of on both sides that we know. Um, and it felt like it was just like, oh, we need an enemy so that the two sides can like reconcile and fight this bigger threat. And it just, I don't know, it just felt very hollow. Um, so Hana and Yoshi were like highlights for me in the last book. I think they were like really standout characters and really well done. I don't like Hana becoming a storm dancer. I think it takes away from a lot of her development as a character, and like her whole thing through the last book is like her having to use clever ways and like her own intellect to get out of stuff, and now she just has, a thunder tiger, so she can just blow through whatever she wants. She doesn't care about, like, she doesn't have to think through as much, and I think she loses a lot of depth in this book because of that. This book, I kind of already talked about this about in the summary a little bit, but this book is very, very heavy on final battles. Like, I think more than half of this book is just the end of like just switching between character perspectives and getting all these fights and these battles and stuff like that. And I just thought it was too cluttered. There's too many things going on to really like have satisfaction with all these events. Like it was like we're here and now we're here and then we're over here. Oh, and now, demons are showing up and we've got to deal with that. And it's just like, I think it would have been more interesting to have the Earth Crusher be the conclusion and like that battle, because I was very enthralled by that and not by having the additional final battle of the battle with the Oni and the Endsinger afterwards. So, yeah. So I kind of already complained about this in the last book, but I'm going to complain about it a lot more. Yukiko's last book, I really hated the pregnancy decision, and this book made me hate it even more. I thought that it took away, like, I felt like her character went out the window, and it was just like, she's pregnant. We've got to protect her because she's pregnant. And there's like nothing else to her. There's no other development, and it sucks because she was a really good character in the first book, and I feel like Jay had he had nothing else to do with her. He had nowhere to take her, and it really hampered her character, just hammering on the same issue over and over and over again. Not to mention, again, she's 17. So pretty weird. So thanks for that. Okay. So this was a big, I want to save that one for the last one. So this is a pretty big spoiler, but Akihito dies like a chump. And like Akihito is a character that we've been with since the first book, and we've been traveling with, and we've had a lot of experiences with him, even though he's a side character. And he just kind of gets killed to give Hana a rage complex, but like they end up working with the her people, or part of, or her mother's people, whatever, anyway. So like Akihito's death does literally nothing other than stall out the fact that they end up allying in the first place, which they were already working towards an alliance. I think his death he could have died, but the way he did, it just felt like, okay, I need to get rid of some characters or something, or I need to stall out this moment. I can't have them allying. They're too powerful now. And it's like, but if you knew the Endsinger thing was coming anyway, you could have made the battle with the Earth Crusher and the Guild and the Tiger Clan and all of that just a pushover. They could have just blown through that and realized that, hey, look, these people we've been fighting against, they're not the real threat that we have to deal with. Yeah, I don't know. That one really disappointed me because I felt Akihito got done real dirty there. So, I kind of already touched on this when we talked about the final battles. There's a lot of side characters, and it felt like Jay was trying to give each person their moment in the spotlight, but I felt like he was trying to give each person their own chapter rather than each person their own mini scene, and I think that partially drags out the book quite a bit too. But biggest critique of this book is Yoshi and Buru's sacrifice at the end. I think the moment itself, isolated, is cool and interesting. But the problem is the context around it, right? I think that by doing this and making, like, I get with the Yoshi development, it makes sense. With Buru's character, it makes sense. But you take away all of Yukiko's agency and all of her driving force as a main character in this book and basically say, yeah, just leave it to the men. You just sit back. And it's like, Yukiko should have been the one to either figure out a solution or to sacrifice herself to solve this issue. And I think, honestly, her sacrificing herself could have been a really, really cool moment and a really interesting moment. But I don't know. I think that it's just hard. It's just heartbreaking to me because Yukiko basically feels like she's just a hollow shell of what she was in the first book. So overall thoughts on this book and the series in general. There's some very clear problems with this book. The over-sexualization of Yukiko is a big one. The culture stuff is something I've touched on in the first review. I think it's something that it's very much pushing that line to being, I don't know. It's just, those two things are bad, but moving past that to just a writing level too, like characters depth, I think that the conclusion of this it does not, you just don't, it's not bad, it's just not great, it's mediocre. I think that the biggest problem is, and I think I've run into this a lot with, especially because I think this is Jay Kristoff's first series he published, if I'm remembering right. But this happens a lot with like newer writers. I feel it's this, I've got to set the stakes so high, I've got to like end the world, and it's like, you don't. Part of the best part of this series, I still think, is book 2. And it was because of those smaller, intimate moments that weren't about ending the world, but about overcoming this corrupt government. That was like the best part of this series for me. Overall, I guess I would say that this series is all right. It's a little better than average, I guess, but there's definitely some clear things that need to be fixed, for sure. I don't know if I'll read another Jay Kristoff series. I might in the future. I mean, I'm not like jumping to like read the rest of his books. But I'm also not going to write off potentially reading another one of his series down the line when I have when I don't have other books that are, and other writers that I want to get to and test out and see. So I think that's going to be it for this one. So if you like the video, be sure to like, comment down below if you want to talk about it some, and make sure to subscribe. Thanks, guys. See you later.